Hello again and welcome to MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thanks for joining us once again. John Fitzpatrick is on vacation and Brian Ray of America's Rugby News is dealing with some family issues. Our thoughts are with him, but we have a great show. We have New England Free Jacks owner Errik Anderson, and we also have Seattle Seawolves and USA Rugby star Joe Taufete'e. So let's get to it. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. We are back with the owner of the champion New England. I was going to say Patriots because it just rolls off the tongue, but it's the Free Jacks and their second consecutive championship in Major League Rugby. Errik Anderson, how are you? Welcome to MLR Weekly.
I couldn't be happier. Thanks for having me. Of course, to be in the same sentence as the Patriots and their incredible dynasty here in Boston. Of course, that's a nice slip up. We love that. Couldn't be happy.
But you guys were just honored by the Patriots at their preseason game.
They're such a good organization. I mean, the Crafts and the Patriots are such a pillar of the community. So, I mean, to take us under the wing as an organization, we're tiny compared to them. They're great. They're like a great older brother in the community. Of course, they run the Revs organization as well, which is really exciting. All the momentum that the Revs are having, especially coming into the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Right, so we've got we got some good things going here in Boston. A few championships. The Celtics are just down the road, and maybe we can go swing a banner with them sometime. So
yeah, that's got to happen because you guys are ticking all the boxes. You have the fan base, you have the growing fan base, you have the stadium, you have the mayor, you have the city, you've got everything in Quincy. It's a great model. We'll get to that a little later in the show. So Errik, Coach Matthew won Coach of the Year in Major League Rugby, and Reese McDonald was Back of the Year in Major League Rugby. But in the cruel thing that is professional sports, there's a price to pay for success. And Scott is moving on to Edinburgh in the URC, the United Rugby Championship, and you have a new coach coming in. What are your thoughts on all this?
I mean, we wish Scott the best. He's been incredible for the organization. So we're obviously incredibly sad to see him go as an organization, as players. He's got a great connection with our folks, so he will be missed. But we're very excited for Scott and for Lee in that opportunity to be in the URC. He's getting back in a time zone that works a heck of a lot better for his family there for South Africa. So we wish him all the best. Hope he keeps in close touch. And I'd say maybe Free Jacks fans have a new favorite team in the URC because they might be pulling for Scotty there. So we wish him the best, and we hope to keep in touch.
Okay, but now who's taking over?
So Ryan Martin coming back for, he's hungry. He's a known quantity. He was a phenomenal coach for us right before Scott. And so we're excited to have Ryan back. We're there with a stable coaching staff at DeWald and Palm. As well. So as an organization, we love the continuity, and Ryan's a known quantity. The players who played with him before, they kind of know what they're getting. So we're going to build around this staff and see if Ryan is hungry enough to go for a three-peat.
Compare this championship to last year's championship.
They're totally different. The players are different. The motivations are different. I think the biggest difference this year was there was a target on our back all year. And we saw that from the first game, the second game, third game. The toll was every week. I think every team came out and it was like their championship in week 4 of the season or week 5 or whatever that they wanted to take down the champions. And so that made it hard sort of week to week, but it also at the same time, it sharpened the axe. And so by the time we hit playoffs, I felt like incredible mental preparation on the part of the teammates. Everybody was focused. Injuries come and go. The guys stayed healthy enough to get down to the finals, and you saw everyone pulling in the right direction. The head was in the game.
You now are confronted with potentially a good problem. How expandable is your stadium? Because you have, you're pretty much selling out all the time.
Quincy has just been incredible to work with. They welcomed us there with open arms. They've really worked with us. police, fire, city, everyone in the community has been incredible. You hear stories. I was just on the phone with actually an MLS team owner earlier today, and you hear stories about how the community either embraces or does not embrace the team. And I would say Boston is an incredible sports town. Quincy specifically wants us there, and that's not true for every suburb. Not everybody wants a rugby team in their backyard, but Quincy does, and it's been incredible to be part of that community and grow with them. Mayor Koch has been an incredible supporter of ours in just making things work. I mean, nothing like super specific. We've got a huge anniversary in Quincy coming up next year from the founding of the city. And then, of course, we have America's 250th anniversary the following year. There's a lot going on there in the City of Presidents. We'd like to stay there. That's one of the questions we get. Mayor asked that question and said, it's going to be so sad when you move on. And I said, move on? Like, how do we stay? Like, we want to like where we are. The city's so supportive. We'd like to stay. We can add some stands. We can figure it out. But generally,
you're a sharp cookie. You and Mags went to Dartmouth. You got the whole Dartmouth cabal to get. You could figure this out.
Everyone will tell you it's you got to work with the community to build these things. And our focus is building like a really good community-focused event, right? So the venue also has to work for the rest of the community. I mean, high school football games run in our stadium that we help to support, and every other sport along the way. So I like that it's really integrated as a pillar of the community, and hopefully we can grow there, add seats, and just do more.
How many teams will be in the league in 2025?
2025 coming up. We're looking at 12, and we like where it's balanced. We're figuring that out. There's been some good expansion interest, and we're working with USA Rugby, World Rugby, and some other things. We've got some things up our sleeve in growth of the league, but 12 is the plan. We've got a schedule.
All right, so I've got rumors circulating Dallas, Tampa, Monterey, return of Toronto. I don't hear anything about New York, unfortunately, but
San Francisco is in that as well. I don't speak obviously for all of the owners here, but I think the really important thing is that we just have really quality ownership groups. In a perfect world, it's a split ownership group. There is at least one person or two or three that are really leading the charge. You fill in a great group behind it, and it's all about engaging with the community, taking care of your players in the community, and being a good part in the leagues. And obviously with USA Rugby and World Rugby as a really good partner in Anthem, that was an incredible experiment this year.
Yeah, that was a coup.
Oh, we learned a lot, and there was a lot of like how's this going to work? There was a lot of questions and skepticism, and Nick Benson really led that with a few of the other owners that feel incredibly strongly about how we develop domestic players. And we took a flyer on it. It really worked out well, balanced the league. And so we'd love to see us. There's a lot of decisions we can be making there to sort of amplify the model that they have and lean into it. We always do a board meeting right around the championship where we all get together as owners. And there was a lot of momentum there and a lot of enthusiasm for what Anthem is doing and how we integrate with USAR and World Rugby.
Capitalism versus socialism in rugby, right?
Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
But, well, other countries, overseas specifically, you've got Ireland and New Zealand off the top of my head. What I would say where the national team comes before the professional teams.
Yeah.
Right. But we're starting to see brushback in the top 14 owners of the French top 14 and even the England Premiership professional league, who's gone through some hard times lately. And I'm just wondering what the dynamic is in the boardroom for the MLR in terms of USA Rugby versus the MLR and vice versa.
Here's how I think the tension you're seeing internationally is just everyone finding the viable commercial model for their geography, and either it's localized inside their country or how they play pan-Europe or even around the world. And so it's just finding the viable commercial plan that is going to work to bring fans to a match day and everything else you surround with the event so that everybody can get paid and sort of everybody makes at least $1 of profit and is solvent.
That word profit we're going to get back to later, but go ahead.
Oh, we are fantastically unprofitable, as you know, as you well know in sports leagues. It's not just rugby. These things, as you grow them, you don't make money. That's an incredible question we get. Like, how much money are you guys making? Like, We're
Send
losing
them to me,
massive
those
amounts
people
of
that
money.
ask you
Yeah,
that
exactly.
question.
Like, would you like a cut of our negative dividends? Like,
Yeah.
but that's not just true for MLR. That's true for any challenger league. It's this question of how do you make your investments, and you're investing in growth here. So I think those tensions between the NGBs and the commercial league, the way that we resolve that, or the way that I think about it domestically, is that every dollar that comes into rugby, whether it's coming in through USAR, men's or women's, or we're kind of flowing through World Rugby, through a World Cup or otherwise, it's all going down to building the base of fandom around rugby. And so how do we continue to improve the quality of the product that appears on television, the quality of the product that's delivered down at the youth level so that kids can engage in the sport? It'll go through collegiate for us domestically here, into the kind of transitional pro, all the way to our players who are on the pitch. The goal at the end of the day, we know how sports teams play out over time. If you can find a way to be commercially viable, at the end of the day, the players find a way to take about half the revenue. If you look at any other sports league, this is how it sort of plays out. So I think that's inevitable. As our players grow with us domestically, they know that the work they're doing today is probably benefiting people a decade or 2 decades out. If you look at NBA players in 1980 versus 90 versus 2000 versus today, it's incredible the difference. I mean, it was barely a living wage back in the 80s, right? I mean, some of those guys, many of those guys were working 2 jobs.
Sure.
Like, that's more how rugby works in a lot of places in the world today. And so our goal is every dollar that comes in, how do we push it down into the community? How do we spread it out to build capacity, whether that's coaching, strength and conditioning, reffing? It all stays in the ecosystem for the most part. And at MLR, you've got all of these team owners who are putting millions of dollars into each team every year, building their own communities in their cities.
You know, I've used the term hemorrhaging cash. I don't want to overuse that, but you guys are putting, you're putting your money where your mouth is, certainly. And I'm just wondering, what's the investment runway? How in terms of time, and that you guys are willing to do this, and what will be the turning point? What's that pivot point, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great way to frame it, Matt. So work backwards from the end game. This is one of our advices that we have in our startups and our other businesses, which is you got to be thinking about what does the end look like and work backwards from that. So let's talk about what 2031 looks like, or 2027, right? So in kind of the run up to the World Cup, we want to be looking at a really successful 2027 World Cup. We want to be thinking for a 2031 World Cup in the United States. But if you're $4 million a year times 7 years, you got to have a $30 million plan for what you're going to be. And if you've got a league that's a multi-billion-dollar league at that point, everything sort of works out from an investment standpoint. Now, this is not even private equity today. If you go in and if you buy an NHL team or an MLS team, you're paying a ton of money for it. And by the way, you're still losing money as an MLS owner, right? So there's still like investments that are being made every year in that, even though it's fantastically successful and they're rising every year and just everything they're doing is really working over at MLS. It's great. It's fantastic. It's really good for fans as well. But even in that, they're still making investments in the growth of their league because that's reasonable. And so I got to think about it sort of in those terms. It's just, it's a $30 million plan. It's a $25 to $40 million plan per team. And then that all kind of rolls up to something that looks very expensive. But those are the economics of building a multi-billion-dollar sports league if you're serious about building something that is truly intergenerational. I mean, rugby is a sport that's been around for 200 years. It's not like you can make up a new sport and have it have the history, but also the dynamism and the narrative arc of an 80-minute rugby match is pretty incredible. And then the arc of a season, and then the arc of our rivalries over time. These are good intergenerational story arcs. And I think it's just going to be incredible to be looking back at this tape and saying, like, oh my gosh, we built that together. The only way that a team like the Free Jacks and a league like MLR are going to have an impact is if it's sustainable and if it scales methodically. We do not have to have a business plan that says we are the biggest and greatest sport in North America. We do not have to dethrone.
No, you're not competing. You're not competing for CBS, NBC, and ABC anymore. There's a zillion channels and a zillion platforms that need content. That's the thing. Everybody goes and says, well, soccer back in the 1980s. I'm like, this is apples and oranges. They had to compete for network time against the professional sports that already existed. We don't have to do that. Errik, I'm sorry. I got to cut you off. We're out of time. Thank you to Mr. Errik Anderson of the Free Jacks. We have to go to break. We'll be right back.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we're back with Mr. Joe Taufete'e of the Seattle Seawolves. Joe, did I get your name right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the closest as anyone's ever gotten.
I want you to say it slowly, Joe. Say your
okay.
Yeah.
So my full name is Joseph So'osemir Taufete'e, but for short, it's Joe Taufete'e.
Taufete'e. So if we were in Canada and I was asking you a question, I'd say, "Hey, what do you think, Joe Taufete'e?" Eh?
Yeah, exactly. So that'd be the three A's at the end.
All right. Tough loss in the final. It had to be tough for you walking off that pitch.
It was hard, especially when it's something to do with a cramp. Obviously, I tried to do as much as I could, but you can never be too hydrated, I guess. But man, it was a tough game just in general. Just in the heat, you can see, well, you wouldn't see it, but there was about 12,000 people and you wouldn't see it on camera. I rewatched the game and I saw that they weren't really doing it justification, how many people were there and just the crowd.
Yeah, it was a good crowd, right? And
yeah,
there had to be a lot of Seawolves fans there. So now that the dust is cleared, the smoke is cleared, how are you physically and mentally?
Yeah, it literally took a week of me just doing nothing and trying to sit with my emotions, because dealing with, physically you're battered, and then mentally you're, drained, and then spiritually spiritually you just not feel attuned. But it finally took a week to finally kind of get over the hump of taking that L. But huge congrats to those guys, man. Those guys worked hard as well.
Oh,
yeah. But they look.
Listen, you and I go back a little bit here, so don't give me that.
What I'm telling you now is that we knew that it was going to be bad, and I said it with some of the other interviews I've done. Any day, whoever is the better team could win in a final, and on that day it was them.
But you've been around too. You've played professionally overseas. Where have you played, and what's been your favorite stop?
So San Diego, from San Diego to Eagles to the Premiership with Worcester Warriors. So stayed there for about 4.5 years. And then after 4.5 years in the Premiership, went over to France, did 2 years in France with Lyon.
But what was your favorite place to play outside of the United States?
Oh, it's tough because obviously England was my first experience living overseas. So a lot of the new experiences was fun. But I think when I got to France, that lifestyle was nothing you really imagine it was true for a professional environment, because they love their wines, they love their barbecues, they love their chill time, and for them to still show up on the weekends.
Well, they don't love authority, that's for sure.
No, that's 100%. But you know what I mean? They stand on ground, they stand on business when they want to get something done. But yeah, I think being a part of the French culture was fun, because I got to learn a new language.
Yeah.
Apparently
you didn't, because you didn't have a pen for me.
It's been a year now, so
tu ne comprends pas.
Désolé. J'ai pas compris.
Oh, that's good. Je suis désolé. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm with you. But the French top 14 stadiums, those crowds are phenomenal, right?
Oh, insane. You get the drums, you get you get the whole band out there. And obviously chanting team songs and stuff like that, just the atmosphere. That's what also made it one of my favorite places to play at.
All right, so let's bring it to the current. A heartbreaking loss in the championship, but you guys, with the amount of people that you had walking wounded or injured, it was quite an accomplishment to get to the final. Are you gearing up for another year, or what's your plan going forward in the MLR? Joe.
My plan at the moment is just being a dad. I think, for so long my wife has been the stay-at-home, wife and looking after the kids and obviously going through those growing pains with her. And it's only fair that I at least try now that I have the opportunity to be a stay-home. And she's always had a good career, and she's trying to find her way back into the workforce and stuff like that. So at the moment, I'm just taking it month by month. I've got to get surgery in a couple weeks, and then obviously dealing with the rehab then. And then, how I rehab and recover is kind of where I'll know where it's going to take me.
Well, what about that whiff of the tri-zone? Because you like that. You like getting into that tri-zone. You smell it. You get close. You're in there. Aren't you the leading hooker? Aren't you the leading scorer hooker in world rugby history?
Yeah, as a front row, yeah.
Yeah, you beat
obviously I
topped Keith Wood.
Yeah. I've still got it. I don't imagine that record's going to stay long with them.
You know how pissed off he is at you, by the way? You don't have any idea how pissed off he is, and all the Irish fans are at you for that?
If I see him, I'll definitely buy him 2-3 beers.
So I give you 3 weeks before you're bored to tears about being the home dad thing, and start thinking about, okay, my rehab after surgery, and that's the season's been pushed. They're going to push the season back to what it used to be, so it doesn't really conflict with the USA window, so you won't have to worry about. I give you 3.5 weeks.
Well, it's been good. I mean, it's been what? So it's been good.
All right, guys, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more after this.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? We are back. All right, so Joe, who's going to win the MLR in 2025?
I would say Houston are looking.
Well, everybody said that about 2024.
I know, but you know when you got it on your
played in Houston.
Yeah, you got it on your fingertips, and you could just taste the finish line.
What do you think of Heineken Meyer leaving?
Oh, I think he's done really good as far as the program. You take it from where it was to where it is now.
Let's shift to the Eagles, and I know you got to go. So let's shift to the Eagles real fast. I want to go back to a certain incident, the shoe throwing incident.
Oh,
Joe, what the fizzle was going on in your head?
Okay, I'll try to make
against
this
Chile, and I'm not going to say Chile because I'm in America. It's Chile. It was Chile, right? You threw the cleat?
Yeah.
What the?
Oh man, I was heated. That was when I first had the blood boiling in a long time, to where I didn't enjoy the game, where I just saw red.
Yeah.
And just before we went, we were comfortable in that game, right?
19 zip
if you remember,
comfortable.
Yeah. We were really comfortable. But then obviously, when you get the tendencies of how different countries play rugby, South Americans, they're really niggly in terms of how they play. They come after you, they try to get under your skin, and obviously they got to me that day.
Or a little extracurricular activity?
Oh, it was a lot of extracurricular activity, and we pretty much didn't have a halftime talk because we're trying to grab people and trying to figure out what was happening. But apparently one of the players had shoved Gary Golden in the little walkway to the change room.
Really?
So then it just got spicy in the halftime. So obviously, I lost my head and tossed the guy's shoe.
All right. Well, we're going to move. That was a lesson to be learned, right? No more shoe tossing in big moments.
That's it. Keep the Olympic sports in the Olympics.
Yes. Yeah.
Not it's 15
Olympic
is not
shoe
there
toss,
yet.
Yeah, that's your next career. So let's cut to this year's couple of matches that you had. You played Romania. That didn't go so well. Then you played Scotland in D.C. To me, there was a dramatic difference in the way the team played against Romania and the way the team played against Scotland. And that was a very good Scottish side, which a lot of people didn't really think about, right? So what was the key for that better performance? And some people are screaming about, you lost by 35 points. They're not getting it when they say that. So what happened against Romania and what changed toward Scotland?
Oh man, that's a tough one, obviously, because Romania are two different teams, when you compare this Romania and Scotland. And I think that when you match the players with the type of rugby that you're going to play, it works out, and you can see that the pace picks up for some reason, because of the players that you have on the field. I just wish when I look back at Scotland game, I was comparing, I felt like our defense could have really come at them a little bit harder.
All right. Well, look, I think we're about out of time. If I'm looking behind your right shoulder, I think it's time we let you get back to doing nothing, aka being a father. And I really appreciate your time. You're one of my favorite players and my favorite people off the pitch. I wish you nothing but the best.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate always talking to you and talking it up.
I do miss the Elvis haircut that you had in the 2015 World Cup. I'm just going to say it.
That thing used to bounce, huh? You remember the way
that
it
was
used to
that was a quaff, baby.
You would go one way, and then it would go that way, and then it would go that way, and then
Did it interfere with you throwing the ball in for lineouts?
No, I don't.
Because it was pretty tall.
Yeah, that time Zach Fanolia was still in, so he threw
right.
in the lineouts, so that helped me out because obviously being a new inclusion in the team, it was like I was a little bit starstruck, and I was trying to think about my job.
Yeah. Little did you know that you'd go on to be the world's all-time scoring hooker.
Oh, who would have known? Who would have known?
There you go. I knew it. I predicted it on some network someplace. But all right. Well, Joe, unfortunately, we're out of time, so we got to stop there. But I do want to thank Mr. Joe Taufete'e of the Seattle Seawolves. I want to thank Mr. Errik Anderson, owner of the New England Free Jacks. Our thoughts are with Brian Ray of America's Rugby News. We hope to see John Fitzpatrick sober here next week. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds. Tell your friends about us. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Join our weekly newsletter. And please join our American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.